the non-conformist quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, he has chimed in on the value of exhibition football. So if you didn't hear what he said, the Jets quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, pointed out when asked about practice games and all this stuff, and he said he's not missing any real football, staying on the sidelines to begin the exhibition season. But rather than me give you the verbatim quote, let's go to the audio tape. Here's Aaron Rodgers on this whole preseason thing.
Preseason is not what it used to be. It's to see if young guys, once the lights go on and the pads go on and the tackling happens, if they can show up or if they don't. So what's there to gain? Just going out there and being back on the field in a situation where you could get hit. Preseason it's not real football.
Fake! It's fake. He went on to talk about how the teams don't show anything and they show more stuff in practice and all that stuff. So that last part, that preseason is not real football, that's what we call the money quote. So let us discuss. The question, Aaron Rodgers, as you heard there, saying that the NFL preseason is not real football and it doesn't matter whether he plays or not. Your thoughts on that? So I've got bada bing, sci-fi, and food chain. Combine all these things together, and we are going to make a migraine headache. If you hear Rico call the show, he called last hour, Rico from Denver, you'll get a migraine headache. So number one. Yes. All right. Aaron Rodgers, you can say what you want. He's this, that, and the other thing. Firebrand, vice presidential. No, he never got that. But his name was mentioned. But this is one issue. And there's people that love Aaron Rodgers. There's people that despise Aaron Rodgers. Thus, he is a polarizing figure. But this topic of conversation for Rodgers, talking about preseason football, this is what's known in politics as a bipartisan issue, that both sides of the aisle can agree we're in lockstep with Aaron Rodgers. We are, right? Exhibition football is a waste of your time. It is a waste of my time. It is a waste of everyone's time. The most valuable resource we all have as human beings, and it's being wasted on this exhibition football. All right? It just is. So in this particular take, Rodgers crafted a masterpiece. He did. Saying the quiet part out loud. Every man, woman, and child knows this to be the gospel when it comes to practice football. It's just the way it is. And this is one of those taboos in the NFL that they don't like to talk about. I remember years ago when I interviewed Dennis Green. I was coaching the Vikings at the time. And he's more known and more famous for a rant when he was coaching the Cardinals. And, they are who we thought they were. But Dennis Green, cool guy, was like into jazz a lot. And I interviewed him. I was like, well, it was like preseason. So I said, well, exhibitions. And Dennis Green, he got all offended. And he's like, well, it's Ben, it's preseason. We don't call that exhibition season. Give me this whole rant. And that's continued. It's a talking points memo from the NFL. They've done this over the years. But it's one of the things. It's like going to the neighborhood pub. Exhibition football is like going to the neighborhood pub. We'll call it in honor of the Sopranos, the Bada Bing. You go down there to have a drink, and you find out that all of the alcohol is watered down alcohol, and it's like 0% alcohol. And this is watered down, not just watered down beer, 0%. And it's one of these things like back in the Bronze Age, before when the NFL was a mom and pop operation. You actually had a chance to make a roster. You could impress somebody, and you could play yourself off a roster. And back when the men were men, and they had hair on their chest and all that stuff, and they had to have real jobs, had to have construction jobs or sell cars in the offseason. Those days are gone, like trying to find cheap Big Macs. It's just gone. And there are 55 players. 55 players on an NFL team's roster. There are 53 on the active roster. There are 48 players that dress on a Sunday or a Thursday or a Monday in the NFL. So with that, NFL teams, by the time they show up to camp, they know 98% of those jobs are filled. There's a couple of spots on the backside, the practice squad that are available. But that's it. That's all. Guys get hurt, and so there's other opportunities. But going in, you know who's going to be on the team. Now, page 2, We hop, skip, and jump to the land in Ohio. And, boy, I know Dick and Dayton's excited about this. Our caller there. We go over to Cincinnati, where we read that the Bengals wide receiver Jamarrchase was persona non grata. He did not show up to Tuesday's practice altogether. Just had other things. Maybe he had a dentist appointment or something like that. While he is waiting for a contract extension from the team, this does present a different scenario than had played out in Bengals camp. So how does this change things now for the Cincinnati football team? So if what we are hearing is true, it's a big if, but if what we're hearing is true, this is a Waterloo moment in the back and forth, the stalemate between the player and the team. It is, because Chase had missed practice. This is the first time he's just not shown up. Previously, he was involved in some drills, but he hadn't. It's not like he hadn't been there. He was physically there. He just wasn't doing a lot. And now he's turning to a sci-fi movie from like 15 years ago. I think it was Avatar. And he's like, the Bengals are not getting the message. And so what he's doing here is he's turning up the heat on the Bengals. This is a aggressive move. He's turning up the heat, switch incendiaries on, and seeing the Bengals scatter like roaches. My favorite line was the Bengals head coach was like, well, he's day-to-day. What is he day-to-day with? He just didn't show up because he's upset with his contract. Day-to-day. Now, Chase, who's, I think, 24, if I remember correctly, he continues to be at loggerheads with Mike Brown. What can Brown do for you? Apparently not to give you the contract your heart desires. He is entering his 4th season, so the Bengals do not have to do anything at this point. However, everyone other than the Cowboys pretty much bends over to the players that demand a new contract because these are boom times in the NFL. But Jamarrchase, he's entering his 4th season. So if my Maller math is correct on Jamarrchase, he's got 2 years left on the rookie deal, the second being that fully guaranteed 5th-year option. So next year's the time to really give him the contract. And the Bengals, they're going to hold on to all the shekels they can hold on to until they have to pay him. Now, final point. We go to South Florida, where Weed Man Hippie can be found on Lincoln Road, our caller from Miami. But the story out of Miami that caught my attention, or Miami adjacent, what did you take away from quarterback Tagovailoa, who got paid? He's one of the guys that got paid. Guy that doesn't perform well in big games, at least in the NFL, but overmatched by cold weather. So you gave a guy, I know they're in Miami. Well, how often do the Dolphins have home field? Not often. So they're going to have to play every year. They're going to have to play either Baltimore or you go through the AFC, the top team, like Buffalo, even though they're not as good as they were. The cold weather, Kansas City. These are cold weather outdoor teams, and they gave a guy who can't play in cold weather and has to win. To get to the Super Bowl, you have to win the AFC, which means you're going to have to play well in a place like Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, one of those places. They give him the money. Makes a lot of sense. Anyway, it's not about him. But it's about what he said. So Tua Tagovailoa recently said that he needs to see Odell Beckham run and catch before he can tell you how he fits into the Dolphins offense, as OBJ has been limited to mostly spectator duty and catch, but that's about it, not catch and run. So what do you make of this? Right? What's your takeaway from that particular comment? I give you the gist of it from Tua Tagovailoa. I'm glad you asked. So Tua is playing a classic elementary school game. He is playing the game dodgeball is what he's playing, right? And he's giving you a version of the truth, but not the whole truth and nothing but the truth, more of the subtle truth. He's like the subtle truth guy. Because when you look at the food chain in Miami, what Tua is really saying, he doesn't like to lie that much. He's one of these guys, very religious guy, doesn't like to lie. A lot of these guys love lying. He doesn't like to lie. So he kind of skirts around the issue. And what he's saying here is that there's no issue in, as we said, the food chain there in Miami, that the supply chain is good. And the way it works, you've got the pillars. You've got the 2 pillars. You've got on one side Tyreek Hill, and the other side you've got Jalen Waddle. They both got paid. They combined last season for 50% of the targets for the Dolphins. Those 2 guys got 50% of the available targets. Now, following the Dynamos, For Miami, you then fall off a cliff. So in theory, there's an opportunity for Odell Beckham Jr. to take over and do great things, and people are very excited about that. But Odell Beckham, who is competing against a rookie, Malik Washington, and some veterans in Braxton Berrios and Willie Snead, who does not like Tua, he's a big name, but he's got little game left. And we saw the final moment. Odell Beckham in that Super Bowl, to me, the greatest Super Bowl of my life, in my adult life, Rams, Bengals. OMG, what an amazing Super Bowl. But Beckham early on, he was great. He was the top player on the field. Then he got hurt, and that's it. ACL injury. He's been a shell of his former self since then. And he continues to get opportunities as he bounces around. He was with Baltimore. Now he's going to Miami, and he'll be in Miami a short time and then go somewhere else.